Hey everyone, welcome to the Jam Yearbook. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jim. Welcome back to another album anniversary episode. A quick reminder of how this goes. Our book face group was polled to pick the 5 albums celebrating big anniversaries this month. We will discuss those a little more in length, and then Matt and I will each get to choose our own personal favorite album celebrating a big anniversary in September. And everyone, I think Matt has finally caught his breath after the hair metal episode.
I did, Jim. I did. I did get some good positive feedback from that show, though. I'm glad we finally did it. Jim was threatening me with a good time for forever, and I'm glad we finally did it.
It was a lot of fun.
Yep. And as Sandy pointed out, we forgot all about Europe. Bad miss for us since Final Countdown. It was a huge hit, and it had a little bit of resurgence.
Every year, it's a New Year's song. You're gonna hear that song once a year, no matter what.
Okay. I didn't even think about it. But there are a lot of bands we didn't get into. Maybe we could all talk Jim into a part 2. We can go into the dark side of hair. But not about the drugs and the STDs, but about the shitty bands. I fell short of calling out LA Guns because I think they're crap, but they got a lot of fans. So
there you go.
All to me. I guess I said it anyway.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of cassettes. I would love some refunds on Demals. If anybody knows them, I'm sorry you had to go through that. That was horrible. Same with Brittany Fox. There's only one person who should try and sing like Tom Kiefer, and that's Tom Kiefer.
Did we ever bring up Giant?
Giant?
I don't think we talked
No,
about
we should have. I'm surprised we didn't, because we had quite the text chain going on with Giant, because it seemed like I would bring Giant up constantly to the point where Jim said, "Dude, what the fuck is it with Giant? You got to drop it," because it was so bad.
But we both owned it. I owned Giant. Of course, it was the ballad
too.
Because that's what drew you to hair metal.
And that's why I bought it, because it was hair metal.
Yeah.
So and then I listened to it. I'm like, Matt, make better choices.
So I guess we're gonna have to do a part 2 now. Is that right?
I think we're doing it right now. Let's just roll into it.
No, dude, come off the ledge. We are moving on.
Okay, that's okay. I just had to get a little bit off my chest. I had to filibuster a little bit, but let's move on. We had some big debuts starting in 1999. Gonna roll right into it. John Mayer, Inside Wants Out. Jim, I got my breath back just in time for this first record to suck all the air out of the room.
I mean, like him or not, is he the only genuine male rock star to come out of the 2000s?
Oh, I would need an hour
to look through everybody.
To debate that, because I hate that I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. One thing that comes off my is what's his face? Adam, whatever, Maroon 5.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah.
But
Adam Levine.
Oh, geez. I bristle at both of those names in saying that they're rock, because when I think of rock, I don't think of either of their kind of music.
John Mayer's definitely more rock, because we know he can do it.
Because of what he can do.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of polarizing, right?
Yeah. I think he has been, because he doesn't represent the rugged alpha male the way more rock stars were portrayed to us growing up.
He's no Keith Richards.
No, I mean, we did talk about Poison and all the hair and makeup, but but at the same time, we did have a very, I would say, masculine experience with rock music, especially the grunge movement. Grunge was very, I got my flannel, my hair's grown out, I grew my beard, and I'm going to be angry. I'm an angry man. John Mayer was the opposite of that, and maybe exactly what was needed for music when he kind of came along. He was the beginning of the transition to the more sensitive male rock star. Yeah, it is what it is. And I'll actually correct myself and say pop rock, because we both know, like I said, what he can do. He can play guitar. He's amazing.
Without a doubt, yeah.
But his pop sensibilities is what he uses to write songs and sell albums.
And he has that a little bit of a Clapton thing too, where he is so talented and it's irritating that it seems to come effortless for him to play whatever he wants. Yet he refuses to play something I want to listen to.
I know I'll probably piss some people off when I say this, but if you come to me and you say, "Do you want to listen to an Eric Clapton album or a John Mayer album?" I'm going John Mayer. Sorry,
Oh,
not,
oh,
not.
hands down, hands down. And if I were to, start a band or somebody asked me, want to jam with John Mayer? Hell yeah, because that dude can play. He can rip. Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls, Ready to Die.
I gotta admit, I missed the Biggie train. I was not listening to rap or hip hop really that much in 1994. I was definitely focused on the band I was playing in and all rock and grunge at the time or indie music. I was a Tupac fan in the mid to late 90s. So I think I kind of backtracked and found some of that music. But I only got exposed to Biggie really through this show when we were doing 1994 as a year. And I can understand why this album had an impact. I really enjoyed it. It feels timeless in the hip hop world.
The gangster rap, the shootings, blah, blah, blah. They didn't make me want to give it any oxygen. This whole era of rap always elicited a side eye from me.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried Tupac before and I just couldn't connect. I listened to Biggie for the first time ever this week, and god damn, I loved this so much. I was not expecting to like it, let
It's
alone
good.
love it.
It's
Those
good.
first three songs, Things Done Changed, Give Me the Loot, and Machine Gun Funk, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I kept starting the album over after Machine Gun Funk was over. Oh man, it took me forever to listen to this whole album. I'm glad I did. It's obviously it's crass in some points, but
Well, that's rap
it,
music.
it is rap music, but you got to be. My sensibility is you got to be careful because you go down that road. Next thing you know, you're a different genre, but you're Steel Panther or you're Two Life Crew.
Gotcha. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
you you know, and I understand that there is life reflected in art, but there's also embellishment in
Mm-hmm.
art. So sometimes that embellishment can, make me give that side eye or the perceived
The
embellishment,
perceived embellishment.
right? I don't need to hear sexy sounds,
No, like
right?
the only thing that gets me about the Biggie album, and maybe even now it's more bothersome because of everything that's going on in the news, but it's Sean Combs, P. Diddy in half those songs just go, yeah,
Oh my
uh-huh,
God, that's so
yeah,
annoying.
oh
That
yeah,
is so
uh-huh.
annoying.
But yeah,
Especially
so
after you point it out or somebody points it out to you and
and
you're
you
like,
just hear him in the background of every single
shut
song.
the fuck up. It's annoying. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. All right, let's move
Him,
on.
cut it out.
We're gonna go to Lenny Kravitz's "Let Love Rule," his debut in 1989. I loved the title track from this album so much that I had a three-piece blues band I was able to talk into playing it. We covered this song and it transposed really well. It was a lot of fun. But I mean, the bass on this song is just so funky and it's slinky to groove and play. I'll admit I was selfish. I wanted to play the song because I wanted to play the bass line at the gigs.
Can't blame you.
Nah, but the album as a whole was completely different than most of the sounds we were hearing in 1989. But you can't deny that there were a lot of Beatles and 70s soul sounds that were blending through.
Oh, so much right off. I was getting Stevie Wonder vibes
Nice.
from
Yep.
the very beginning. In 1989, so this isn't on my radar because I'm still all about the hair metal. There's some side shoots, but Lenny Kravitz, I was probably still watching reruns of Jeffersons and watching his mom
His mom,
before I
yeah.
knew about him, right? you know, on the because on 89 on the pop side, there's the B-52s and Cher going on,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
well, I won't give away another album we're going to talk about later.
Okay.
But if you kind of think about the sound of those albums, I mean, Let Love Rule is a little bit ahead of the curve in production as well. It's kind of got definitely a more 90s bent to it. They'll love the sound of this record. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sound like a late 80s album. And I talked about Stevie Wonder, when at the beginning there, right off, sitting on top of the world. It just something clicked in me where it struck a Stevie Wonder vibe with me. And there are definite Beatles nods here and there
Oh yeah.
that I love the Beatles, and I love that when I'm listening to something, I can recognize that. And whether somebody else does or not, it doesn't matter to me. It's like as long as it reminds me of something and it gives me a good feel, I'm all cool for it.
That's
And
good.
I've always had a thing for Mr. Cab Driver.
Yeah.
I
We
love
we
that song.
we we haven't been very nice to Lenny though.
No, I've talked some shit about Lenny. I was saying I could essentially I quite a few episodes ago, I can find Lenny a bit boring. His music kind of just plods along. But
Hmm.
I kind of reflected on it. I think I figured out where he's coming from. It feels like he's always trying for that slinky, sexy, sensual side of rock and roll. Because there's no denying he's one cool
Yeah.
mother father. I was
He
ooh, I
is.
caught myself there. He is
No,
he
he
is
is.
he's goddamn cool,
He
man.
is a cool
You
guy.
can't deny it.
Hmm. All right. So this is something I know you might be excited to talk about.
Judas Priest,
Yes.
Rock'n'Rolla, debut album for Judas Priest.
I listened to it for the first time this week. I was shocked. It's definitely a more blues based sound than the metal we're going to be getting from them.
Mm.
It's got the 70s feel I would associate more with Zeppelin, Deep Purple, or even some Aerosmith at times I thought I was hearing. But the main influence I heard on this, or what I thought I was hearing, was Black Sabbath. There were some really strong similarities. So Jim went and did his deep dive as he's been doing recently. And lo and behold, it was produced by Roger Bain, who had made a name for himself as the producer of Black Sabbath's first three albums. He actually had a lot to do with their songwriting on this. I went really deep into the production of it. And I'm surprised they did go back. There was another album they worked on again with him down the road, but they were never happy with this. And they
No, they
showed
weren't.
they showed up to record an album that probably sounds more like the Judas Priest we got to know. He basically threw half their songs out the window. They had songs that were 7, 8 minute long, and he was like, "No, we're not doing that." He was looking for a more, radio ready rock sound from them.
First off, bless you, Jim. Bless your big heart. Because, man, I feel like you gave me permission to deep dive. I'm gonna try not to go off on too many tangents here. But you're so right. I dove a little bit into Roger Main too because it seems like he was at odds with people when they were recording because he definitely had an idea in mind,
Hmm.
right? And rock and roll it's more sludgy. If you like that kind of bass heavy, thick guitar riffs, check out Budgie too. He recorded their first two
That's
records.
right. I read that.
He has a specific sound that he goes for. Damn you, you got me pulling threads from the hair metal shows still.
Oh, come on. This is gonna pop up from time to time.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but it's a bad not a bad.
Hmm.
It's an obsessive habit that I can go down.
Well, here we go. It's time to get on with the top anniversary albums that we got from our book face group. Happy to have them vote for these. Thank you. You're probably going to be surprised with some of our commentary. We're not going to be nice to you 100% about some of your
No, we're
choices.
not.
But Matt, you were spared because, were you happy or sad to dodge the required listening of Creed's Human Clay or Blues Travelers 4 album?
Okay, here's the thing. Here's a lot of things. I was very happy because when I was looking through the anniversaries this month, I was sweating it out. It's not a strong month
No.
for album anniversaries this year, in our 5 and 10 year ish,
Hmm.
number range. Blues Traveler, I would have tapped out. I wouldn't have listened to that. I would have read a bunch of reviews and probably like formed my opinion about that, or maybe found a really bad review of it and just quoted it just to be fun. Cause I would have listened to Creed before Blues Traveler.
And that is the difference between you and I because I don't think the Blues Traveler, and that is the difference between you and I because I did listen to the Blues Traveler album once we were setting things up. And I guess we had different experiences with it back in the day. I don't really mind it. Blues Traveler for me in 19, when was this, 1994? I
I think
was
so, yeah.
driving a van every morning and afternoon around Bennington, and there were songs you could sing along to on the radio.
Once upon a
Yeah, you could just you're cruising along. I was driving
million.
the old folks around Bennington in the van, and I could sing along to. Now that's not to say that I could have been singing along to Creed too if I had been doing that in
All's
'99.
wide
Can
open.
you take me higher?
Higher. Oh, jeez.
And here we are picking on it, and you have sang just now a Blues Traveler melody. We both know Creed songs.
Yeah. Well, come on. You can't. I mean, they were huge songs, and I guarantee you, and this is kind of my thing with Blues Traveler. I remember when Spin Doctors hit, and everybody kind of wanted to equate them to Spin Doctors because they kind of ran in the same circles.
Mhm.
Music's nothing alike,
Nothing.
but Blues Traveler always struck me as a band that I would love to see live
Yeah, yeah.
because I think their music translates better in a live experience.
Mhm.
But in an album, everything is just too neat and tidy and clean.
I can
And
understand.
I got a feeling they can be really dirty and gritty in a show. And how many times have you gone out to a local bar, somebody's playing, you bought their CD and wanted to kick yourself in the nuts the next day for buying it because you wanted that experience and a CD doesn't give you that experience. And
So
I
you
think
talk,
Blues Traveler probably live gives you what you want, but just on a recording,
you're not getting it.
it doesn't,
So
you're not getting it.
so let me ask you a question. You said you'd rather have listened to Creed than Blues Traveler, but if you had to go pick one to go watch live, would you pick Blues Traveler to go see over Creed?
Yeah, because I guarantee you I could see, hold on now. Hold on now.
You're gonna miss out on seeing Mark Tremonti play guitar,
Yeah,
which you know.
yeah, but I would also, if I went to see Blues Traveler, I wouldn't have to watch Scott Stapp either.
Yeah,
So,
that,
and hey, I can't remember the frontman's name, John Popper, right? For
yeah,
Blues
yeah,
Traveler.
yep.
Dude could play the shit out of a harmonica, right?
But he could also cut about a minute and a half out of the song of playing it.
Exactly. And it's like, a minute in, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go get a beer,
Yeah,
take a
come
piss.
back. He's still playing.
Hopefully, when you're done, I can come back and enjoy the song.
Matt, hold on. We're not getting to the albums. We're sitting here spending way too much time talking about Creed and Blues Traveler. I think we just wanted to bitch because they were on the list this week.
I did. I did.
Neither one of them got a single vote.
No, no. Thank you. Hey, again, bless you. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Why are we talking about them? They didn't get
No,
any
let's
votes.
let's get on. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, because one album that did get some votes was REM's Monster.
Yeah, I was a big REM fan as a kid growing up through the 80s, and I really enjoyed the material they were putting out in the early 90s. I think REM peaked just before this album, and this was the beginning of the backside of their career as a band. By no means do I think it's a bad album. It just didn't capture people the way their previous albums had. Automatic for the People was a huge album right before it. It was like the world stopped when I saw the Everybody Hurts video the first time. It was almost as if when Monster came out, that feeling that REM was able to project in their music had disappeared. It had left.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Monster is a very different album for them.
You're not wrong.
I am the furthest from an REM aficionado, but the guitar sound on this is so much more aggressive and raw than what REM is known for. I don't mean that there's shredding, but it's a very harsh, raw
Mm-hmm.
sound to the guitar. I don't know if they were out to prove something. Could you listen to What's the Frequency, Kenneth? I was only singing the chorus to myself before I played the album, and I never realized, or maybe I just completely forgot about the guitar. And it's kind of grating. It does not fit the kind of like sweet harmonies that are going on in the singing. And not to discount Green in '88, but they became a smash with Losing My
Oh
Religion.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That was just huge. And there's a 3 to 4 year window at that kind of peak where, at least in the US, people want to move on and worship the next thing. It's like they get into this cycle. It's like REM this, REM that, or Taylor Swift this, Taylor Swift that. And then there's finally a pushback of like, okay, enough of this shit. Tell us about something else, something that's just not always in my face. And most bands can only keep that kind of window open for so long.
I think you're onto something, that they had a point to prove with the guitar sound on the album. They had released Out of Time and Automatic for the People right as grunge was breaking.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
But they managed to stay there. Where hair metal, a lot of other bands, fell away because they just couldn't keep up with the popularity of grunge and rock music. Really, REM took over pop radio and they topped the charts. They picked up a bunch of Grammys and other awards. I think that this was more of an attempt to fit a little better into that alternative soundscape again. They had gone from being indie darlings in the 80s to being the sound of commercial radio in the early 90s with Losing My Religion.
I would agree with you. But you know what? Some of the lyrical content of their songs would fit right in with grunge.
I agree, but I bet you that amount of fame, the height that they got to, as much as you love that as any band, and I've never really seen a bad attitude about it from them, but something tells me that it might have been a little uncomfortable for them because they seem to me to be the kind of guys that want to keep their edge and be a little different than pop radio and everything that's out there.
Yep.
And
Or maybe want to make a statement and not have all the attention to
yeah,
them,
yeah.
but the attention onto the statement.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's an interesting album to get to listen to this week, and I'm glad it got some votes and we were able to do that. Next, we are going to move on to Dave Matthews. Speaking of bands to go and see live, as compared to listening to the album, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Dave Matthews, Under the Table and Dreaming. Dave Matthews definitely is one of those bands that I've been in circles where I pretended I didn't like, but I was lying a little bit. It was just a little too smooth for me, arriving when I was still riding high on the alternative grunge wave that we were talking about. But I did own the Crash CD from 1996. I learned how to play Crash on guitar. I definitely didn't have my nose in the air completely with DMB. That's what we'll call them.
Actually, Jim, all you need to say is Dave.
That's true, because that's what they say, isn't it? Is,
Yeah.
oh, do you go see Dave? Yeah,
The fans.
the
That's what makes the
fans.
band annoying. The fans. Yeah.
What I was saying, though, what was made me weary though was how completely amazing the musicianship was. And there's a lot of great musicianship in grunge rock and things we were listening to, but we know a lot of that stuff can be covered up with distortion pedals and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and effects. Whereas these guys were playing with a lot of clean instruments out there. Dave, playing acoustic guitar, had a completely unique approach to his style. Carter Buford is a generational drummer. I think when my crowd talks about the greatest drummers out there, Carter's name does not come up often enough. He really is that good. Dave was a bartender and was familiar with the music scene in Charlottesville, obviously bartending. He saw the bands coming and going from where he was working. He put himself and Carter together in a band with jazz saxophonist Leroy Moore as a trio to start. So when you really think about the jam aspect of Dave Matthews Band, he sought out a jazz drummer and a jazz saxophone player to come and join him with his acoustic guitar. At the core of Dave is a jazz band. You throw in some bass, keyboards, and a violinist, and you have a 1990s jam band. This isn't going to be something that I'd throw on all the time, or maybe even anytime soon. But there's just something,
Ever.
yeah. But there's just something about them that gives me, like I said, that weary feeling. But this week, I really enjoyed listening to it, and I've got nothing but respect for the musicianship on the album.
What would you say? I have to admit, I really was digging that song this week.
It's a good song. There's
It
nothing,
is a
yeah.
good song.
Did you notice that there's some like dark themes in the music on some of the album?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I expected it to all kind of, I don't know if I'd listened to the album the whole way through in my life. And I thought, it's going to be all kind of what would you say? And then these songs came on and I was like, this is like The Doors or something.
Dave went dark on us
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
And I've come across this thing where we did it with hair metal. We want to call it new NU, new
And
glam.
New
And
Glam,
I
yeah.
always want to call Dave new yacht because it's so smooth.
Well,
It's new yacht rock.
yeah, and John Mayer belongs right on
Yeah,
that.
he does.
Right.
Oh my God, he does. It's adult contemporary that has just enough. I don't want to call it edge because this is completely shaved. It's so smooth. The music landscape in the early 90s was wide open. It was all over the place. And Dave was like fish that could keep it short,
Yep.
with instruments that are traditionally not jiving in rock.
No.
And I almost want to think it's like the cool thing to do to bash Dave or the Dave Matthews Band. But you can't deny, just like with John Mayer, there's probably a little bit of jealousy there because they're so damn talented.
Hmm.
Bottom line, you can't deny the talent there. And hey, what? If it's music that I just don't care to listen to anymore, then that's all I need to say.
We're
I
gonna
don't
have to
need to say it's crap because it's not crap. It's just
we're gonna
not what I
have
want
to
to listen to.
we're gonna have to now do a new yacht episode at some time.
Oh, we could do
We
that.
could, but the thing is, people just be aware we're probably gonna just shit on all the music. We're sentimental about yacht rock from
uh,
the 70s and early 80s, but when it comes to the
yeah,
stuff
we
that
are.
came out in the 90s and the 2000s forward, we're probably gonna, but it'd be nice to maybe go out and try to identify what that is and see what took place for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. We could be onto something right there. Yeah, come sail away. So
Okay.
let's move on because we have Aerosmith Pump here
Yeah.
from
I
1989.
said this when we did the 1989 episode, and I think we disagreed at the time, but I still regard this as my favorite Aerosmith album. Janie's Got a Gun, The Other Side, What It Takes, they rank in my top 10 Aerosmith songs. I love driving down the road and just screaming like I'm Steven Tyler to What It Takes. It's one of those, is this a ballad? Is it not a ballad? Is it a blues song? It
Yeah,
kind of has
yeah,
that feel. It rocks. The end of
yep.
it's got this outro that's really kind of long. And if there's ever a song out there, if you want to pretend you want to sound like Steven Tyler, this is a good one to practice all your.
His
Yeah,
little scatting
because he
thing that he
does
does.
it.
Scat is another word for scat is shit. But let's.
Yeah, it works in this song though.
It does. It does.
Look,
I'm sorry.
we have given them a lot of shit. I think I call them arrow shit in the last episode.
That is their new name.
They couldn't stay relevant in the 1990s without shitty ballads. And I think for both of us, they overstayed their welcome. And that's how that falls.
Yeah, and Aerosmith deserves all the shit we dump on them. They tried to come back with Done with Mirrors, which was awful.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought in a bunch of outside help to make the band commercially viable. And they did. Success, right? From copying the same crazy amazing angel songs to releasing an endless stream of greatest hits esque albums and collections. Aerosmith lost their way, but again, like REM, how long can that wave crest?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not too many people are going to craft out a 10, 15-year wave.
No.
Be happy with your 3 to 4 years, plan for that thing to ebb and go away and make things better on your own. Don't just keep copying the same old thing over and over.
Well, we talked about bands that benefited from hair metal. We're going to keep going back to hair metal, but we talked
Yeah,
about
we
bands
are.
that benefited
Yeah,
from
we
hair
are.
metal. And Aerosmith definitely was one of those
Oh,
bands
hell yeah.
that benefited from the rise of hair metal because they did fit right into that playlist that we talked about, the songs you're going to put on.
Yeah, they did. And I'm sure they had a lot of hair metal bands opening for them on Permanent Vacation and Pump and whatever.
But other than those ballads that you just crazy amazing angel songs you just talked
Yeah.
about, they did not have anything that was substantially rock and roll after the 1989 album. To me, anyways. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's screaming that loves like a song that I never heard on the radio or
Oh,
something.
God,
But
no.
I'm sorry, if it was that good, it would have been on the radio. It's Aerosmith. They would have been around.
I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but just there are interviews. Just go to YouTube and look up Steven Tyler. I think it's either on Joe Rogan or maybe Howard Stern, and he's waxing poetic about his song Pink. And and it's like, dude, that's a shit song, shit lyrics. It This is not an opus.
No.
You do not need to expand on how you came up with the lyrics for Pink.
No, we
It's
don't
like
need to know.
Aerosmith. You had a great, amazing, crazy, amazing angel
Hmm.
comeback,
Hmm.
right? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Don't look to hang on longer than people want you to. Be happy with it and embrace it, right? And Jim, we still disagree. Permanent Vacation is superior to Pump. I'll die on that hill, but we can both agree Get a Grip is not very good.
No, for me, the buck stops at Pump. They never matched any of their older material after this album.
I agree. So this could be the birth of Jim Jams here. Maybe it's a little late, but I'm pretty sure Jim was all over Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation.
You are absolutely correct, sir. I was. It would be hard to say that Janet Jackson was the high point because Young MC and Bust a Move
Oh,
also
why are
came
we
out.
talking about that album?
Yeah, that's another one that came out in 1989. And that was the Jim Jam for a long time. If anybody
Facts.
knows,
Facts. I'm a witness.
I've covered this song with a band's, and you probably saw the music video from back in the
Yep,
day.
sure did. I saw it in my bedroom.
there are,
Jim just jamming along with this one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, and
Wait, hold on. That may have sounded weird to some people.
that's because I used to go over and just jam
Yeah.
out in his bedroom. You ever heard of a Jim Jam? Anybody?
Oh, oh my God. It just took on a bad meaning.
All right, let's get back to this.
Hold on. Let me get the doll and show people where you touched me.
Matt, put it away. Because I don't have to keep
Put the
saying.
doll
Yeah,
away.
no, I can't tell you
Phrasing.
how many times I've said put it away to you. Uh, I think I think that really 1990s where it's going to peak for me. So we'll get there next year. I've got a couple more years to go here. But you messaged me this week and you said that this was not an album to mow the lawn to.
No, it wasn't. And it's not because I wanted to get off my
Yeah.
mower and
And,
dance.
and immediately I messaged back just like, it's a great album. And
Bullshit.
but then I went and listened to it and I realized it has not really aged well. Rhythm Nation, the title track, Miss You Much, Escapade, and Black Cat are, in my opinion, all still great singles from the album. But the filler is really rough and borderline painful. It's a little preachy. I think that was kind of common around this time to kind of have these interludes, but some of them were a little disturbing.
Yeah, they were. And I have to admit a little bit of relief because I thought we were going to come to blows on this album because I remember that it's a great album. I remember that text and I'm like, okay, I'm going to actually open up my mind and give this album a shot. And I'll agree with 90% of what you said. The preachiness, yeah. The interludes that tried to create this connective tissue through the record when actually it did the opposite of me. Because if you're going to have an interlude, these little TV or radio click changes that are going to come up and talk about social inequities of one kind or another, well, maybe your song ought to go into that.
Instead of, yeah, Escapade or Miss You Much. Yeah.
Right. But regardless, it was my first time listening to this record at all as a whole. Obviously I heard the hits and it took me a few attempts to get through the record. My God, my autoplay is going to suffer because I tried to listen to this so many times.
It's going to be like, oh, look, he likes Janet Jackson. He keeps playing it
yeah,
again.
you
Yeah.
listened to this album
Yeah.
18 times.
He
No, it
keeps
took me
going
18
back.
tries to get through it. And I didn't mind the singles. They were catchy. But you know what? What kind of bugged me is there's a very similar sound palette and beat structure through every single one of those singles that it's like you just kind of did the Aerosmith thing and just recreated a song around a certain same structure. It's like you could easily put all of those songs into a medley right? That's what kind of annoyed me
Oh, they
to
definitely would.
to
And I'm not,
and I didn't mind the songs. It just bugged me that they were so samey same.
I'm kind of surprised you haven't come to just bitch about the drum sound.
Yeah, it did drive me
I can
nuts.
imagine. I just want to say that Rhythm Nation is the only album to generate 7 top 5 hits on the Billboard Top 100.
Oh wow.
More than Michael Jackson's Thriller, more than Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, which each have 7 top 10 hits, but not top 5. It's also the
Mm.
first album to achieve #1 hits in 3 separate calendar years. So this album had staying power. Miss You Much in '89, Escapade and Black Cat in 1990, and Love Will Never Do Without You in 1991. Here's the thing. I don't think that Janet Jackson gets any respect for any of that, and I think it's very unfair. She was blacklisted for a few years because of a boob at the Super Bowl. Today, when people look back on the really the pioneers or the great strong women of music, you rarely hear people bring up Janet Jackson. And I can't help but wonder if Justin Timberlake would have had the same backlash if his dick had popped out instead. Maybe. Janet accomplished the same, if not more, in the music industry as Madonna, Shania Twain, Mariah Carey. She deserves to be remembered for that, her musical input, her influence. Because you're right, she did have another big album after this. That influence of Rhythm Nation, the album that came, I think it was just called Janet, that came after that. Uh,
Hmm.
those were huge albums and definitely influenced pop music and things going on. And then a boob happens, and
Yeah.
suddenly, I mean, all of a sudden she's Ike Turner for a boob. It doesn't make
Yep.
any sense. So
Yep.
I feel like she
But
deserves a little more attention.
she does, but maybe because back to the interludes, maybe if some of her song subjects had gone into a little bit deep, and I'm not saying there wasn't in the songs some, deeper subjects, but maybe if there was a little bit more outspokenness about those darker themes,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but then again, if you're trying to fit into the pop
Hmm.
world, you want to be happy, fun, bubbly, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Overall, I agree with you because I wouldn't have listened to this on my own, but I'm kind of glad I did because while I will rail against it and I'll push back, but it's good to have your boundaries pushed.
It is. It is. Well, speaking about having boundaries pushed, the last album that was
Oh,
chosen by the
oh,
audience was Foreigner's Head Games. And first of all, I want people to know that I like Foreigner. I really do like
yeah,
Foreigner.
yep.
They're one of those bands that I look back on. But I think when we put this on the poll, people were just excited to see the name Foreigner there and voted based upon the name and not really the album.
Oh, they were inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2024,
Yeah, they were just
along
inducted
with Cher
along
and
with
Dave,
and Dave. There we
Dave and
go.
Peter Frampton.
Yeah, so Mick Jones was actually a non-performing member of Foreigner for many years. He is solely credited as the writer of I Want to Know What
I
Love
wanna
Is.
know what love is. Funny aside story. So youth football, and one day at practice, we're just running through some plays, and one kid got tackled hard. He was on the bottom of a
Mhm.
pile, and we got all the kids off him. And I'm like, Sammy, you okay? He just looked up at me and he said, I want to know what love is. And I'm talking about, how do you even know what that song is? And my concern for his health just went out the window. I'm like, if you're singing that, you're probably okay.
And here we go. I'm not trying to knock Foreigner. I started this
Yeah.
out by saying that Head Games is not a good album, but I have to wonder if people thought it was Foreigner 4.
That's a great album. Yeah.
It's so good. And I think people might have just been nostalgic because I don't think we've really talked about Foreigner much
No,
on the
sometimes you play
show.
the name game. Oh,
And
Head Games. I know that song. Cold as
yeah,
Ice. Yeah.
yeah, there's not really a lot of hits off that album. And my problem with Foreigner in this album is that when you step away from the hits, the songs are really
Mm.
not as good. I'm not saying they're bad, but they're just not great. This is the Dirty White Boy era when they're just kind of getting started. So I'm going to say, audience, shame on you. Cheap Trick deserves this spot
Oh,
on the list, in
damn
my
right. You're
opinion.
speaking my language. Dream Police should have been the album we're talking about right now. That is such a great, I love that album so much. I agree with you, accosting the audience, Jim. Accost away. Foreigner has always been one of those bands for me that beyond the hits, I don't find much to grab onto. They struggle with four. Four is an incredible album, front to back. Not a
It
bad
is.
song on that album. Love it.
No, it's a
Love
lot
it
of
to
fun.
death. And there are obviously good songs on this one. Just not an album guy. This is me, Matt, album guy. It's just not a
Yeah,
complete album.
yeah.
And that, unfortunately, that makes me think less of songs, unless it's going to be Foreigner Records. Grab that greatest hits and you put those two songs on there and it flows. It's dynamite.
And it's fine. Yeah. All right. So now it's time. Those are our 5 albums that we have brought to the show. Thank you, audience, for choosing those albums. I'm so happy that you made Matt listen to Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation this week. But we're going to take a moment. We're going to talk about the 2 albums that we've chosen. And I think I'm going first. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So the album that I'm going to choose this month, it was a toss up. Either that or I was going to have to pick Kenny Rogers' album, Kenny. This is classic Coward of the County, Kenny Rogers. And I have wonderful memories of watching my parents dance to You Decorated My Life. You brought up Sandy at the beginning of the show. Sandy, I'm disappointed you did not vote for Kenny Rogers. I expected more from you. So I was either going to pick that or I was going to go to the Fringes. And this is what I had to do. So there I am standing in the Fringes, and I have 2 albums. On one hand, I have Fugazi and their album 13, the song Suggestion, Waiting Room. Those are a couple of incredible songs. But on the other hand, I have Ween's Chocolate and Cheese. I love both these albums so much, but I've got to give it to Ween. Voodoo Lady, Take Me Away, and Roses Are Free are some of my favorite songs out of the 90s. That band that I played with, the Lenny Kravitz Let Love Rule song, we also played Roses Are Free.
Nice.
Every year when I'm decorating the Christmas tree, I put Roses Are Free on my mix of Christmas music.
I'm going to start doing that just so we can have some kind of shared experience. Well, not some kind. We have a lot of shared experiences now.
Matt, put it away.
So, yeah. Jesus Christ, Jim. You really went there. Sorry, I'll get dressed. So spinal meningitis didn't strike a chord with you?
That song makes me a little uncomfortable.
It really
Yeah, but I
does.
think that's
It
the
really
point. I
does.
think Ween liked to push those boundaries with people.
They would definitely like to poke people.
Yeah, I listened to their country album if you want to.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is such a great
it is
album.
so good. I found a vinyl single of Voodoo Lady at a little local record store in Bennington,
Oh
and it
man.
had Buenos Tardes Amigo as the B side. So that's another song that I really enjoyed. And not to mention, Chocolate and Cheese has one of the greatest album covers of all time.
I want that belt.
The belt's awesome.
It is. It's like a wrestling championship belt or something from the
I am the
80s.
Ween champion.
I am the Ween. Wait, I am the Ween. What the hell does that even
I
mean?
don't know. Well, here in Scotland, it means you're the little kid, which is weird because they call their
Oh,
yeah
okay.
yeah.
Geez, I thought it was going to mean I was the dick. Well, I
No.
kind of can be it sometimes. But awesome choice. Chocolate and cheese. Fantastic album. If you haven't listened to that, do it now.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Just come back. Let's do it now. Then come back. Listen to me prattle on. Because I had a similar problem. Which one to choose? I almost went with Guster's Lost and Gone Forever because I really love that album. But since we're coming off our hair metal show, it kind of felt like that was a more natural vein to go into. So Animalize, Kiss, it's sitting there, right? And while it meant a lot to me when it first came out, I listened to that thing a ton. And their concert video they had for that tour, oh man, I ran through so many copies on my Betamax from that thing. But most of their output from Lick It Up on, meaning Animalize, it just doesn't really hold up for me. While Iron Maiden isn't hair metal, I listen to Iron Maiden as much as any metal band. So
Hmm.
my pick is Power Slave.
Nice.
First off, the art on their albums, especially the older ones, it's amazing.
Hmm.
Every time I would go into the record store, I would stare at the covers like for minutes, like, wow, what is this? Wondering. And then, you pick up Number of the Beast, and it would make me wonder, yeah, but if I buy this, what am I really getting myself into? Right?
Yeah.
And then I got this cassette. It was a K-Tel, I think it was probably my last K-Tel album ever, Masters of Metal.
Nice.
And one of the songs was Run to the Hills. It's an older song, not on Power Slave,
Uh-huh.
but because I listened to that song and I loved it so much, I said, "Oh, okay, I'm getting Power Slave," and I got it. Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight are songs I have never stopped listening to ever since they came out. They were on my mega playlist. I listen to them minimum yearly. And then as soon as I do listen to them, I repeat them over and over and over because I need to hear them more. When I first started playing bass, I'll admit that the 7-year-old in me saw Gene Simmons as the one that made me want to pick it up. Then Steve Harris opened up a whole new world. Iron Maiden as a band did as well, but Steve Harris was my guy. Because Iron Maiden songs, they're not about parties and
No,
girls.
no.
Not at all. There's a higher level of lyrical writing, not quality, but you're singing about World War II pilots.
Yeah,
You're going
yeah.
to go into literary subjects.
Mm-hmm.
I used to lock myself in my room after coming home from school, and I would spend hours playing bass. But in particular, I would just I was going to learn how to play Power Slave and Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner until I died. I was going to figure these songs out. And it taught me that I could play chords on the bass, arpeggios,
Mm-hmm.
and that classic Steve Harris triplet gallop that
Yeah,
he would
yeah,
play.
yeah.
And about halfway through Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, there's a bass line I still use to warm up to this very day. I've used that to start jams with people over the years. I countless times. And you can also kind of tie that into Number of the Beast too, that song. I've always been asked whenever we get done jamming, hey, what is that? Oh, it's Iron Maiden. And the answer I usually got, or the look on the face told me, is like, yeah, we're not gonna play
We're not
that.
playing Iron Maiden.
we're not playing it. Well, it's like, dude, we just created a 20-minute jam centered around Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. It's just a ripped off bass line that you can just grow into different avenues off of. You don't have to play Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. It's just such a great starting point.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matt is very passionate about this. No, it's good.
I really am. I love this album so much.
That's awesome. We talk about you being exposed to Janet Jackson, but the other thing this show has done on the flip side of that is exposed me to this metal, this early metal. We brought this album up when we did the episode for 1984. I think we've discussed it with Sandy on one of the metal episodes. And this is an album that if you want to start looking into metal for the first time in your life, it's accessible but respectable amongst the metal crowd. It's really good.
And I understand people can be challenged with different musics based on, Bruce Dickinson. Yeah, you know what? He's got an aggressive vibrato. It can get on you. I understand that. But take it in as a whole, Iron Maiden is so fantastic.
Well, there we go. The September anniversary albums.
We're all done. Yeah, Jim has to cut me off, or I'll keep talking about Iron Maiden, I guess. Or I think
or
he's just afraid I'm going to go down another hair
yeah,
metal rabbit
somehow he's
hole.
going to wrap it around to that.
Demals. How did I pull that name out of my ass?
All right. So what we're going to do instead is really torture Matt with the next episode.
Janet Jackson's greatest hits?
It didn't torture you that badly.
No, it didn't.
Instead, what we have done is we have polled the audience and we have the decision on the worst number one songs of all time. It was a great vote. It was a lot of fun. And we are going to talk about these songs, which means, unfortunately, we're going to have to go listen to them.
It doesn't mean they're bad songs.
Well,
It's just, are they worthy of being a number one song?
I'm sure we're going to hear Matt moan a little bit about a song or two on this list. I definitely know
When aren't you going to listen to me bitch and moan about something, Jim? I'm a complainer. I'm a whiner from way back.
and we're
It's in
not
my DNA.
yeah, and as Matt said, we're not saying we dislike these bands. I think part of it comes down to either the song overstayed its welcome. So it was a good song when it hit number one, but then when it stayed there for 14 weeks, we got just like, this thing needs to get out of here. I
Yeah.
hate it.
Or sometimes you just look back and go, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
lived in the 80s.
we did.
We know what it's like to look back and go, what were we thinking?
So I think the show actually is going to run a little shorter than the last few shows we've done. You are probably very thankful for that if you're tuned in and listening. Matt probably could have made that hair metal episode. Well, he has. So here we are with the next hair metal episode already. I was gonna say he could have,
It
made it
kind
3
of
hours
was
long.
part two. We got to talk about a little Animalized, a little Power Slave,
Yeah.
a little shit band talk. Yeah.
I'm sure as we go through the years, we're gonna stay 1984. As we go into 2025, we're gonna hit 1985. So we're gonna hit a lot of these hair metal albums.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be
as
Matt's metal moment or something. Next. Yeah, we got 84.
good idea.
Right. Next year it's 85, and the
Yeah.
year after that it's 86.
I'm just gonna sit back
Oh,
and drink a beer
plenty.
while Matt talks in his Matt metal moments coming soon.
And I'm gonna sit back and drink a beer and talk about my metal moments.
Hey, when do I get my Jim Jams episode?
You just had one.
I did not.
Can't
Janet
you be
Jackson,
happy with that? Janet Jackson.
just
Well,
one
I
album.
guess you know what, Jim. That's up to you.
Okay,
I can't decide when your Jim Jam moments are.
no, but no, not moments. Episode.
Episode.
I get an episode. You got a hair metal episode. Don't I get a Jim Jams episode?
Yes,
I mean,
you should, but it should be in a month that starts with J. So you got a ways to wait.
Oh, I've got a ways to wait. No, that's fair enough. Although I will say that I am going to put together a playlist of Jim Jams that's going to have that drum sound all ready and set for you to go from song to song to song to song.
You know what? I love the song Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe.
Oh, yeah.
I love that song. But listening to that kind of drum beat for even a half hour is torture.
So it is time to wrap the show up. We are going to come back with the worst #1 singles of all time, which will be
it's going to be fun.
Yeah, fun. Part of me is like, why are we going to do that to ourselves? But I guess we got to go and do it, and we'll enjoy it. It will be fun because we like actually shitting on them.
We like complaining.
Yeah, we do. All right, Matt, you want to sign us off?
We hope everybody enjoyed and maybe even listen to some of these September album anniversaries. We'll see you here next time when Jim and I kind of complain about some songs that became really, really, really popular and famous.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, it shall.
Yeah. Until then, everybody, peace, love, and podcast.
Lost in a memory, caught in a revelry.